Be ready. 5 seconds. Start. Sir, the entire concept of the goods and services tax is actually an indirect tax, and an indirect tax is a regressive tax, and a regressive tax has been explained. All of us know what a regressive tax is and how it burdens the poor much more, and it should not burden those people for whose welfare we are all supposed to work for. Now you consider this situation. In India today, the direct tax component revenue in our country today for our country's resources is 37%, 62% already comes from your indirect taxes. That is, the people are burdened by that amount. In the last budget, which the Honorable Finance Minister presented, he said indirect taxes have been hiked to the tune of around 20,000 crores of rupees, while the direct taxes have been reduced by over a thousand crores. What are you doing enriching the rich and impoverishing the poor? Now, in this sort of an atmosphere, compare our 37% of direct tax collections with the other emerging economies in South Asia. Look at Indonesia, they have a direct tax revenue component of 55%. Look at South Africa, part of your BRICS, they have a direct tax revenue component of 57%. We have it at 37%, and on the top of that is the GST. If you do not have a cap on its limit, a limit on the GST, it will be an increasingly regressive tax that will impose greater and greater burdens on the people. Now you have worked out. I don't want to name him, but those of us who have read the Chief Economic Advisor's report would think that they are very reasonable economic arguments. Those are economical sound arguments that have been put in there. The revenue neutral rate was estimated, and that has already been explained in the House, to be 15% or 15.5%, whatever the exact figure is. But remember, sir, there was an R&R calculated in 2014, which we was then very strongly opposed, and that R&R that was calculated then was 27%, 13% as the central taxes, and 14% as the state taxes. This is a very heavy burden on the people who are also hit by high inflation. Now, if you have this sort of an R&R, and on top of that you may have bands less than that, but then a tax rate of around 24% or 25%, that will just cripple a vast majority of our people. I have said this before. What is the reality today? It is reported that in the last 1 year, the number of US dollar billionaires in our country have increased from 100 to 150. Wonderful, may that tribe increase. So, as your own saying goes, that is shining India. What does the 2011 economic data report show? In 90% of Indian families, the bread earner of the family earns less than rupees 10,000 a month. These are the two Indians you already have. On top of that, if you get a regressive tax regime, you are only widening the gap between the two Indians, and that is not the spirit which our constitution enjoins us to come to this house to legislate. Therefore, I think it is absolutely necessary that instead of a revenue neutral rate, you start considering what I would call a fair revenue rate. I am seriously suggesting to the Honorable Finance Minister that this be considered as a fair revenue rate and to work on it. By the time you bring the GST bill, you can actually work on a fair revenue rate for the states concerned, and then you have a cap on it. So that assurance must also come when the GST bill is brought before us. How it will be brought, I will come to later. So, when it is brought before the House, that should be taken into account. The third major point that I have, sir, is concerning the concrete amendments. There are certain problems in the concrete amendments which the Honorable Finance Minister has moved. In the third amendment, for instance of clause 9, he suggests three categories. He has given 1A, 1B, and 1C. Sir, 1A says the amount apportioned to a state under clause 1 shall not form part of the consolidated fund of India. Yes, because it has to be shared. So once it goes in there, then you and I will have to sit again to apportion it. It is correct. The second amendment is also by the same logic. Okay. The third amendment, namely 1C, says where an amount collected as tax levied by a state under Article 246A has been used for payment of the tax levied under Clause 1.